Well, we're joined in the studio by the Labour frontbencher and Jeremy Corbyn ally, Chris Williamson. Welcome back to the Daily Politics. So why do you think there is a conspiracy amongst UK mainstream media to suppress positive stories about Jeremy Corbyn?
Well, you tell me, but it's pretty clear that there was a media blackout. And let's remember, when there was a photograph of Jeremy wearing a tracksuit, it made front page news. When Theresa May put a star on the top of a Christmas tree, there was wall-to-wall coverage, as there was of William and Kate being awarded a Blue Peter badge. And here we have the leader of the opposition being awarded a prestigious peace award, being completely ignored.
But why didn't you even mention it or tweet about it when it was actually announced back on the 6th of September?
Well, Jeremy, as you know, is not one for bragging about his achievements. And the fact is, when the award was made, that's when the ceremony took place last week. That was when the time, it seems to me, for the media to have actually...
Surely you do it at the time it was announced. And part of the problem was that nobody in Labour announced it.
Look, I mean, what I would ask you this, Joe, is if it was Theresa May that had been given this award, or any award, do you think that the mainstream media would have ignored it?
Well,
No,
maybe the
Conservative coverage.
All I'm saying is maybe the Conservative press office might have done. When did you actually hear about the fact that he'd won the award?
Well, I heard about it when he was actually awarded it last week.
Right. So you didn't know about it either on the 6th of September?
No, indeed. But
right.
I would have expected the mainstream media, when you have the leader of the opposition being awarded this prestigious award, to have actually given some attention to it. I wasn't saying it should be main headline news, but there was no mention whatsoever.
Shouldn't there have been some attention given to the fact that Jeremy Corbyn had won this Peace Prize?
I have to confess I had neither heard of that particular prize before, nor had I heard that it's been awarded. And in my experience, if you want news out there, you have to quite often beat your own drum a little bit as well.
Right. I mean, do you agree with that? You didn't know about it, you've just said, back on the 6th of September, when it was actually announced that he'd won this Peace Prize. None of the official Labour media accounts, or even Jeremy Corbyn himself, actually publicised it. Do you think that is the problem?
No, I think the problem is very clearly with the mainstream media, who simply ignored it. Even when it went viral on social media.
When did it go? When did it go viral on social media?
Well, after he'd been awarded the prize.
Right, but the criticism from you was that we didn't report it at the time, and as I'm saying, you didn't seem to know about it, nor did Labour.
That's your job, isn't it?
It is, but then if you're not prepared to publicise it
it's not about being prepared to publicise it. You're the media outlet, aren't you? You are the BBC and the mainstream newspapers and so on. It's their job to report the news. Here we have the leader of the opposition.
I don't think you even knew he'd been awarded this prize before last Friday. So, I mean, to some extent, why would every part of the media know if you yourself didn't know?
What are you saying that you didn't know?
The Labour media account. I didn't know at the time it was announced on the 6th of September.
No, not the 6th of September, no. But
no, that's what I'm
we're talking about last week.
Yes, but why didn't you know then? Did you know on the 6th of September? Did Jeremy Corbyn know that he had been awarded? Why is it irrelevant?
Because the issue is the presentation was made last week. He was over in Geneva for that, and indeed to make an important speech, which didn't get a lot of coverage either. The leader of the opposition being given this, what I think is a prestigious award. This organisation has been in existence since 1891. Some say inspired the Nobel Peace Prize to come into existence in the first instance. So they have very distinguished sort of antecedents in that sense. And yet the media ignored the fact that the leader of the opposition, the official opposition in this country, being awarded this, and particularly when you take into account all of the smears which have been levelled at Jeremy.
Well, let me put that
over this issue about his alleged support for Hamas and so on, which is complete nonsense, as we know. Here we have a peace award being awarded to him. And no mention of it.
Don't you think that is unfair on Jeremy Corbyn? I mean, there has been negative coverage, as Chris Williamson said. Do you think that negative coverage has been unfair?
Randolph Hearst once said that news is what someone doesn't want you to know, and everything else is advertising. I mean, I could have masses of criticism as to whether the news at the moment is too negative about Brexit. I know the media was very negative about Jeremy Corbyn. But then how do you respond as an organisation? You have to rebut it and you put out the good news story.
Yeah, but the point here, though, is that there was no news, was there?
Yeah, but
they just ignored it. And I think if there was nothing about Brexit, I think you would have something to say about it. And when the media's prepared to give wall-to-wall coverage to the Prime Minister putting a star on the top of the Christmas tree, but isn't prepared to report on the fact that the leader of the official opposition has been presented with a prestigious peace award, particularly given the allegations which were made against him, these soft on terrorism.
Well, that's what I mean. You haven't answered that question. Is there unfair coverage of Jeremy Corbyn and his position on important things like, yes, when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian crisis, for example?
There is a tendency to focus on the negative, but that is what the media does, and that's why we need to go out and put the positive on.
Indeed.
Do you think next time it would be...
The point is, it's a media blackout. It's not about negativity. This is just a media blackout. When it's good news, there's nothing there. The media just simply...
Well, is that because it's not controversial or unusual? I mean, isn't that typical of news generally, that they don't cover good news?
Not unusual. The leader of the official opposition...
No. Winning a Peace Prize, you just said yourself, if it's good news, it doesn't tend to get coverage.
No, but you said unusual. I think that is quite unusual. When was the last time that a leader of an opposition, the official opposition in this country, was presented with a...
No, what I meant was unusual, that there isn't anything controversial in that sense about winning a Peace Prize.
You only report on bad news, then?
Well, that's what you were implying.
Well, I don't know, but when it's the Prime Minister, you're quite happy to give wall-to-wall coverage that she's put a star on the top of the Christmas tree. Or when Jeremy's wearing a tracksuit, that makes the front page of the national newspapers.
Or next time, tweet it when it's announced at the time, and let's see what happens.
But Joe, the point is, when it was tweeted, when it went viral on social media, there was a media blackout. That's the point I'm making.
Well, we're not media blackouting you, Chris Williamson. Thank you for coming on.